Yeah, New York, definitely New York City has become a war zone too as well.
Into custody after breaching barriers that were set up by the NYPD to keep them on the sidewalks and to prevent them from...
So as the protests in LA get national media attention, activists here in New York are just getting started. And they're now flooding the streets of America's largest sanctuary city, overwhelming police on a nightly basis. However, the mayor of New York has said he will not tolerate violent activism or attacks on law enforcement, but to agitators here, that sounds more like a challenge than a threat.
This was the chaos that erupted last night. 86 arrests. And federal agents overnight deploying tear gas into a crowd.
Yep.
The NYPD says
same old.
The situation
That's
under
the answer
control.
every single day.
Demonstrators were armed with signs, face
same
coverings,
shit,
and
different
flags.
day.
Some were led away to NYPD buses in zip ties, while others were wrestled to the ground by cops dressed in riot gear.
We are not afraid, and we will not be bullied, and you can't lock us all up.
And on top of that,
you want to bet on that, Grandma?
Are not afraid, and we will not be bullied, and you can't lock us all up.
You want to bet on that? you wanna bet on that, Grandma? I got $5, chat, that they will probably arrest everybody, you know, especially the ones who've conducted bad problems in the actual vicinity of the area. I'm just saying. I'm saying. Hey man, I got $5 on that.
and on top of that, which is even more disgraceful and disgusting, top NYPD officials are playing golf with Donald Trump.
At times, protesters were clashing with police, but during the day, those protests were mostly peaceful. Police called a level 3 mobilization at some point after 9 p.m. And the protests broke up after midnight, and we're told most of those...
Good thing Doge saved some coins from the government spending. They can now use the funds to build a new prison for these clowns. Yeah, they could totally build a new prison. Just put it on an island, you know? Put it on an island far, far, far away or so, and you just put them all there, you know?
Protesters will be processed and released.
And while last night's rally appeared to be larger than other recent protests, New York hasn't seen the same level of chaos as Los Angeles, at least not yet.
How is this a peaceful protest if this is not...
So these protests, they are starting to overwhelm the city and our police, but what nobody's talking about is that this radical...
No. This is my opinion. This is the one thing that I like to throw my hat in the ring or so for this, right? Grab all of these crazy people, have the US buy an island, right? Buy a decent sized island. Don't even build, don't build nothing. Just don't build anything on it. Ship them, all of them over there. Ship them all there. And then let them create their own society over there. And there you go. While the US has their clean citizens, all those crazy people can just go over there, you know? I'm just saying. You do that, and you're pretty much clean.
Not so peaceful activism, although it gets on the news and goes viral. How does this legitimize the idea of illegal immigration? Looting, rioting, attacking police. These are not things law-abiding Americans think are okay, and now those things are directly associated with people breaking our immigration laws. But here's the thing, New York isn't law-abiding. It's the country's largest sanctuary city, and everyone here protesting only has their eye on defeating public enemy number one, which is why protesters recently stormed Trump Tower again. And what's crazy is we're at a major impasse in American society. The views of these rioters might be popular in LA and here, but not anywhere else, which has created a huge catch-22 for those running sanctuary cities. For example, in New York, all of our leading mayoral candidates are refusing to condemn the protesters or call for peace in our streets. And their platform for getting elected just involves standing up to President Trump, whatever that means. But that brings us to the real reason why these protests are happening in progressive cities. These are the only places left in America where you've got this critical mass of lawlessness. And if you want to see a map of where the next riots or protests will probably happen, here you go.
Damn, that's a lot of red. I'm seeing a lot of red there, to be honest, chat. Like I'm saying, the Americans voted for this, so That's crazy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think Seattle might turn red the next time, the next time they have an election or so. It might actually turn red. You see these places that are blue and everything like that? I feel like they might actually turn red the next time the elections come around.
But that's the thing, most of the country is red right now, and the law-abiding for years have silently suffered under the attacks of agitators. And to most of America, a president who's willing to deploy troops and send Marines to quell domestic uprisings will be hailed as a hero for standing up to the mob. But as you're about to see, the mob is already in the process of taking over New York City, and it's not exactly being peaceful about it. There's a lot of barriers out here, and that's because we're at ground zero for all of this recent protest activity, which is now happening on a regular basis here in New York. We're by the federal building where there's an ICE office and an immigration court, and this is the area violent activists immediately received proof they can do whatever they want here. Because although police have arrested a massive number of people, most of those arrested just get tickets and then get released, which will surely stop them from coming back, right?
Yeah, so that was the scene in Lower Manhattan last night when protesters clashed with police after jumping over metal barricades. And as I said, they interrupted traffic. Demonstrators were armed with signs, face coverings, and flags. Some were led away to NYPD buses in zip ties, while others were wrestled to the ground. And
so let's get one thing straight.
That's
the people
crazy.
Here that are doing this, they're watching what they see on the television,
That's
and their
true.
goal is to make the same thing happen here that's happening in Los Angeles. And it's worth mentioning that every violent protest always starts off as peaceful, because there's always a moment of peace when the agitators line themselves up before causing chaos. On top of that, New York, just like California, has a rather lax justice system. Most of the stuff that would get you thrown in jail, like robbery or assault, here doesn't. And this no consequences environment has emboldened protesters who think they can do pretty much whatever they want. And even though our police are out in force and made 86 arrests, 34 of those individuals were detained overnight, then released, and the
Really? Man, dude, New York, you gotta step up your game, bro. Honestly, you guys are gonna become fucking like the new Arkham City, you know? Oh, actually, technically, Los Angeles is technically Arkham City.
The other 52 were just given tickets for disorderly conduct. And even though New York's finest are among the best police in the entire country, this just gives the protesters their battling practice, interacting with police, getting arrested, which is only going to help them remain on the streets and out of the back of these police cars. But look at how this whole peaceful narrative keeps getting pushed in relation to these protests.
Protesters were clashing with police, but during the day, those protests were mostly peaceful. Let's take a look at some of the video we have.
Mostly peaceful, while throwing boxes at the van or so and antagonize. Okay, yeah, sure, yeah, okay, all right. I love it how they keep saying it was basically mostly peaceful. Watching one guy throwing boxes at the van, you know, causing chaos, you know.
Last night, police called a level 3 mobilization at some point after 9 p.m. And the protest broke up after midnight, and we're told most of those protesters will be processed and released. Like you mentioned, we know approximately 8.
So during the day, there was peace, but not at night, probably because criminals love the cover of darkness. But here's the other thing. If you spend all day listening to speech after speech of people who just rile you up, eventually it's going to be too much. There's only so much hate a person can endure and believe before they decide to act out on it in an attempt to save a world they think is collapsing. And these activists think that by attacking an ICE facility, they're somehow on the right side of history. And they think if they stay silent, America will morph into the Soviet Union, even though most of the protesters are associated with these socialist causes. But the fact of the matter is these protests cannot and will not stay peaceful, because the people involved in them truly believe that by enforcing immigration law, the president of our country is gonna destroy it somehow.
This is about as big of a crowd marching as I've seen in the city in quite some time. They're leaving Foley Square now, making their way west through Tribeca. Police basically out of sight, allowing this constitutionally protected and peaceful march.
Wow, isn't it wonderful? A massive group of people marching down the street, about to boil over, no police in sight. That'll teach them to behave themselves. Some of these folks are just waiting for the right moment to make their move. And what you're gonna see happening is the same agitators getting arrested and released and arrested and released over and over again. And as that happens, they'll just bring more people to their cause because no consequence actually happens. Showing up at one of these things, damaging property or attacking the police won't result in anyone's loss of freedom because here these types of offenses have been decriminalized. None of this is actually wrong as far as our laws are concerned. I'm sorry, but tickets and fines do not keep radical agitators out of the back of
Nope. They gotta arrest them. They gotta round them up, send them to jail, round them up, round these piggies up, in my personal opinion. No, you know what we need? We don't even need a Batman. You know which superhero we need the most? Out of all the superheroes that we need the most, we need like a Flash. Because you want to know why? He can go super fast that he can basically stop time. And he can actually put all of the rioters in like handcuffs without, you know, in a split of a second, you know, without any problem. Because if you're trying to do this passively, right? If you're trying to, let's say we're trying to do this passively, right? Flash can literally go so fast that he can literally arrest all of them in a matter of less than 1 minute. Really easy.
police cars. But wait till you hear how local leaders here are just making everything worse.
We are not afraid, and we will not be bullied, and you can't lock us all up.
You want to bet on that?
Yeah, that is not a message of peace. Telling the people listening to you that there are more of us than there are of them, and they can't put us all in jail, and we're gonna fight. That's not a peaceful message. No, it's not. Because if people are peaceful, they won't need to go to jail. Literally 0 people are getting arrested for peacefully protesting. The people in jail are violent, dangerous, causing chaos. And we're looking at the makings of a movement that our local laws are powerless to stop. Because as we've been learning, even if the protesters get locked up, they'll get released, and they can come back to the scene of the crime, right here by the ICE building. But as you're about to see, unlike Los Angeles, where the mayor and the governor have taken the side of the protesters, here rabble-rousers have another enemy besides President Trump.
The public advocate blasting Mayor Adams, calling him a Trump wannabe.
Mayor Eric Adams is nowhere to be found in a city full of immigrants. And on top of that, which is even more disgraceful and disgusting, top NYPD officials are playing golf with Donald Trump while people are being arrested.
So it's not just that the mayor of New York has said he's not going to tolerate lawless, aggressive protests. The entire NYPD is now on the bad side of these activists because 2 of their members would go and play golf with the president. Never mind, golf itself isn't a very progressive activity. Here they are, hanging out with the enemy and smiling about it. How terrible.
Damn, that's
but
crazy.
Let's be real, it's not like these protesters were pro-law enforcement and didn't want to keep defunding the police before this happened. They're just looking for an excuse. And the problem is, even though we've got some of the best police in the whole country, they're gonna have a Los Angeles-style situation on their hands pretty soon if they don't already. Even though, as you're about to see, this situation may already be much bigger than anyone here understands.
I'm a member. Oh, great. Okay. So basically, morning.
This over here is the entrance to the federal building protesters wish they could smash their way into and liberate people from. But The NYPD, our leaders are telling us they've got all the tools they need to handle this. After all, we've got a police force of 30,000 officers, the largest in the country. However, anyone who's been following the news here knows that that police force is too small for this city's over 8 million residents. And we've got so few cops that when we pull them off the streets and send them into the subway to stop crime down there, crime comes back with a vengeance above ground while continuing on our dilapidated public transit system. And since we've already got out of control crime here that we can't seem to stop, if protests happen on top of that, it might be too much.
The New York City Police Department, we are expert in policing protests. We have lots of practice at it, and our cops are the best of the world. It is our...
You want to say that to Florida? I think Florida has something to say about that, you know? I'm just saying. When will the protest liberate us from Co's basement? Your mom's gonna liberate from the basement.
Our responsibility to maintain safety and order on our streets, and we will not abdicate that responsibility.
You gotta love how on the screen they're showing a massive number of people blocking roads and causing chaos. The same people who just a few hours from whenever that was shot would then go on to riot and attack officers. Now look, the NYPD, our officers, they are very well trained. Do they deal with radical activists all the time? Yes, absolutely, but that's not the point. The point is we don't have enough police to keep everybody safe at once, and if massive protests happen, any officers that show up to deal with those protests will have to come from somewhere else, which is exactly what happened last summer when the Tren de Aragua gang from Venezuela had their minions robbing people in Central Park. We sent all of our cops there to secure the place. And after we sent the cops into Central Park to secure it, look at this. Crime skyrocketed in all the areas around the park where there weren't any police. Which means this is not about how well the police are trained. Nobody's debating that. The problem is if you don't have enough of them and problems happen, you're gonna have more problems.
We have a special unit called our Strategic Response Group, and what this unit of several hundred cops does is police and work with protesters. And so they are really expert in it. Generally, we'll have a heads up about...
This is all true, but it's all in the context of an understaffed police force who's already got its hands full with more crime than it knows what to do with. And that's not an opinion. Everybody knows the NYPD has a major staffing problem. Cops are leaving the force. They're being forced to do more with less. Just look around. The evidence of a short-staffed police force is everywhere. We are not living in a safe utopia that doesn't have any problems, that's for sure. Crime here's already going through the roof and everybody's aware of it. Stack protests on top of this, what do you think is gonna happen to this place? Oh, and remember, every single person that gets arrested at these protests, they're gonna get back out. They're gonna come back and they're just gonna be angry that their time was wasted in the back of a police car. And the scary thing about this idea of riot...
What a lame name, the Strategic Response Group? Yep, the TSRG. Whatever the hell that is, you know? Never heard of it in my entire life.
The deck is totally stacked against our police, and everyone knows it deep down.
Yeah, the military needs to step in or so to control the actual situation, because they are here to serve and protect the U.S. What is it? From domestic and then something. What is it? Domestic and what's the other word? Something terrorist. I forgot what the word is. But you guys understand what it is. Foreign. There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Our responsibility is to maintain safety and order on our streets. We will not tolerate people blocking streets, people blocking entrances to buildings, people blocking cars, chaos, violence, or disorder, and we will stamp that out when it appears.
I hope they can find a way to do that, but so far they haven't. Every single person they arrest is back out there. These people...
Really? What is his actual statement on why it's actually not legal?
People are all free to come back and do it again. But let's be real, the chief of police of a sanctuary city cannot go on mainstream news and say the police are finished and need help from President Trump. Oh no. But on top of that, everyone running New York right now, and whoever will be our future mayor in just a few months, has the same view of all this as the governor of California. They think this is all President Trump's fault. They think he's instigated it. And these people all support the protesters who they want to vote for them them, except for our current mayor, who probably won't be reelected.
President Trump.
I've heard that Legal Eagle has been having a is pretty biased, is what I've been hearing. So yeah, I've been hearing that he has been pretty biased in these certain situations. So I don't know.
Trump is going to do what suits President Trump. President Trump has already made a deal with this mayor that we know very well. The mayor is going to be cooperative with ICE.
Even then, on top of that, if I remember correctly, the military was deployed to protect the federal building. They haven't done anything. The LA police are still the ones who are controlling the situation and pushing them back, but the actual military is there to protect the outside of the compound of the immigration building. That is what I've heard. This is what I've heard. This is what I've seen. So, you know, yeah. Yeah, that's literally is what I've been hearing. Mm-hmm.
We're going to do things that are illegal and unconstitutional.
Zohran Mamdani says he's going to be ready to deal with Trump if he gets elected mayor.
What we deserve in this moment is a mayor who can look that authoritarianism in the eye and not see a reflection of themselves.
Yeah, I hate to say this. New York is a blue state. Whoever wins this Democrat primary for mayor, especially in this progressive city, they're going to be the next mayor. And none of these people have a platform that is anything other than resisting President Trump. That's what they're running on. How are these people going to get elected and then stand up to the protesters? They won't do that. They're going to be out there with the protesters. And former Governor Cuomo, who resigned, he says he's going to stand up to President Trump just like he did during 2020. He says he's going to do it again, and he can't wait to get back in the driver's seat. And sadly, whoever gets elected is going to have a mandate from the mob to stand up to the president, to resist ICE. And while they do it, their base is going to surround the wagons and tell them that they're on the right side of history. What do you think about that? Do these protesters...
That is the most ridiculous thing I've been hearing. That's what I heard too as well. They've been saying, you are not on the right side of history. I'm like, yeah, you're also not on the right side of history either. So
have a legitimate grievance? Are these mayoral candidates right that people should stand up to the president of America that wants to enforce America's laws? Or is this sanctuary city just another place that is run by activists for activists? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Yep. Yep. It's been funny. It's just been funny to be watching all of this stuff, to be honest. I don't know. I just find it pretty hilarious. I've just been sitting back. I just kick back, sit back, laugh about the whole situation itself and how stupid most of these people are. That's all it is to it. But yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. You guys can comment, like, subscribe, do all that fancy jazzy stuff.
He's a hacker.
We're not on the right side of history because Ko has distorted our world too much. All right, buddy. Okay. Fuck this right side of history, BS. You'll be even lucky to be remembered. That's true. That's true. But yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. And peace.